Welcome back, everybody, to our next session. It's good to have so many people joining us this morning. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to your engagement for the rest of the day. I would like to formally welcome Nikki Scott to the SAPICS 2022 Spring Conference. Nikki spoke at our annual conference in June, and she received such good ratings that we invited her back to speak at the Spring Conference, so that those of you who couldn't attend can be a part of the brilliant talks that were at the SAPICS conference. We're just going to bring Nikki back onto the stage, but while we're doing that, I'm going to just take a few minutes to introduce her. So Nikki's formal roles are the CEO of the Commercial Transport Academy. She's the CEO of Zolabix Auditing and the CEO of the Transport Consultant. She has recognized both locally and internationally as a trailblazer, having received 6 business awards and her master's in business. Her project also won an award at the recent Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards, and it was a very well-deserved award. She is now the head of the Commercial Transport Academy, and she's a market leader in the development and upskilling of women entrepreneurs, professionals, and truck and business bus drivers and couriers for the transport, mining, and logistics sector. She has secured local and international funding to achieve her goals of inspiring 915 women to achieve greatness. And this is all happening. This isn't a pipe dream. It's actually happening. We're seeing it on social media. I urge you to follow Nikki on her social media. The stories are very inspiring. She has become a friend of SAPICS over the last year, and we're delighted to have her on the Spring Conference floor platform. So over to you, Nikki. Thank you for your time this morning. Please put your questions and discussion points in the tabs on the right-hand side. And then at the end of the session, please rate Nikki's presentation under polls. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. Yeah, that's quite a mouthful, and I generally try not, when people ask for bios and I battle, I'm like that sort of person that really struggles to put everything down, but sometimes you need to. Sometimes you just need to be able to tell people, you know, why you have the privilege of sitting here today and being able to talk to you. So this is a really challenging environment for me, guys, because I can't see your faces. I have no idea how you're responding, and I'm an empath, so I tend to respond to people's faces and their body language, and so please be kind. It's very, very challenging if you've ever been on this side of the screen. So let me tell you, well, I think today really isn't going to be a pitch. You know, you did an amazing job of scaring the hell out of all of us, and I sit here today thinking, well, with so much that is going to be automated, how do I convince the industry, the sectors, mining, construction, transport, to invest in human capital? How do I get you guys to hear the pleas of unemployed, and in this case, I'm talking a lot about unemployed women, to give them the opportunity to present their abilities, their skills, their ideas, their leadership styles to industry? And before I can answer that, I want to take you back a little bit. So I very often start all my presentations with my history, because I feel like it just gives you guys a grounding of where I come from. So growing up in absolute poverty, really been on the wrong side of the railway lines, and I know that's very controversial to say that, but that's how we grew up, and that was sort of like the borderline of, you know, in your social class. And I grew up really spending most of my life on the outside looking in, you know, admiring everything that was out there and wondering if I would ever attain the level of education or the level of influence to be able to sit on the other side and to be part of conversation. And the small town was Port Shepstone in KZN. Not much happened. You know, you either became a secretary to someone or you worked in mom and dad's business, but it was a lot of mom and pop sort of environment. And I aspired to be so much more. And I managed to matriculate, but I wasn't allowed to go to university. My parents wouldn't allow it. So after matriculating, I started my first business. I was 17. And I ran two companies at the same, well, not really company. One's an enterprise. One was a home industry, where I had to learn the discipline of waking up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get food ready to sell in the home industry. And then at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would go off to my local high schools and teach young girls poise, makeup, clothing styles for body shapes, everything that a young girl would need to know to enter the workplace. And I realized that that wasn't enough either. By the time I was 19, I needed more, and I sold my two businesses and went off to the US and worked as an au pair. But while there for 18 months, I got exposure to what we had never seen in South Africa. So my time in South Africa and experiencing business was, you know, it was during the sanctions. We didn't even have McDonald's then. So we had, you know, services were limited. And I got to experience home delivery services back in 1993, 94 that I didn't even know could exist, that people would even make use of. And coming back to South Africa in 95, I brought those ideas, I brought those interventions that really make life easier, and started my first company in South Africa as a transporter. I just turned 22. I was actually 21 when I was setting it up. And, you know, fast track forward, my first business was transporting car rental vehicles, which was incredible. We had a 90-minute turnaround from the time a telephone call came in to the time my first drivers would arrive on site at the client was 90 minutes. I took care of everything. So what the client needed in terms of petty cash, toll fees, insurance, the whole solution was that the client only needed to make a telephone call and tell me what needed to be moved, and I would handle the rest of it. That same service level I took into the commercial transport sector. And there we saw, you know, an industry that had never, ever been exposed to quick turnarounds, solutions, brainstorming, because they were always on the end of transport. You know, if you look at any of the OEMs, it would always be the cars that would be moved first by carriers, and then the trucks would be put into those transport pipelines. So my 90-minute solution was first to market. It was something they'd never seen. And along with first to market came satellite tracking that I brought to South Africa from Australia, because there was satellite tracking, but there wasn't mobile satellite. We brought specialized bonnet covers to protect vehicles from stone chipping, windscreens from stone chipping. Oh, there were so many innovations from around 2000 to 2018 when I eventually sold the business. But during that time of running the market leader in the transportation of commercial vehicles, I realized how poorly represented women were. And I started in 2016 already to look at ways of how could I incorporate more women into business. When I entered the commercial transport sector in the year 2000, I was generally the first woman in the room. We would see some in finance, some in HR, but definitely not operations. And looking back, that wasn't a hindrance. It gave me a market advantage. And the fact that I knew something about vehicles and I'd taken the time to really understand my market positioned me well. And I think using all those years of experience, I service 67% of the OEM industry. So that would be the transportation of a brand new vehicle. So my business would plug into the pipeline as the vehicles came off the production line. And my job was to get that vehicle in the same condition I picked it up, which is brand new, to the end user, which could be a dealer, it could have been a bodybuilder, it could have been a trailer manufacturer. And the territories we covered was everything from the coast, so East London, PE, Durban, all the way up through South Africa and as far north as Rwanda and Uganda. I had over 250 drivers working for me, and 5 branches of the company, and it was an exceptional business. But I did what every entrepreneur is sort of encouraged and counseled not to do, is I sacrificed my health for growth in the business. And all of these lessons that I've learned along the way, so bringing a market proposition that hadn't been seen in or experienced in South Africa, learning to really manage, get some sort of life balance. So yes, working myself to the point that I became so ill that I actually had to sell my company. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't cope with the stress levels. I mean, there would be a storm and I would be putting my head like this under the blankets, is there going to be hail? What would the hail do to the vehicles that I have in storage? I just went to such a dark space. And I kept thinking back to the fact that, I could be doing something else. I've learned everything I can, but how do I now incorporate what I really want to do, which is focus on why women are so underrepresented? So I sold my company to a JSE listed organization, and I started the Commercial Transport Academy. Took my learnings from 2016 of introducing the first woman into the industry. Again, ahead of time, market wasn't ready for it. And we entered into a JV with Volvo Trucks under the amazing leadership of Marcus Horbe. And we brought the first Iron Woman to South Africa. That was taking unemployed women in the Johannesburg areas and developing them to be commercial truck drivers. So that was stage one. We realized that there wasn't a big enough pool of women for companies to access in order to put them onto learnerships or internships. So stage one was, let us just create a platform for women to access the market by means of having the right skill. And we thought that would be enough, but it wasn't. It was actually really the basic stages, and industry wasn't convinced still that women were going to be accepted. So having run 3 Iron Women programs and looking at the fact that we needed a lot more funding in order to really scale this project, we approached USAID and corporate South Africa and said, look, we really need to be able to elevate not just women in terms of getting their license, but in all the other areas of their life in order to really give them the opportunity to succeed. And USA took a little bit of time. Over 2020, everyone had their heads down during COVID. We were busy negotiating a deal, and we were awarded funding from USAID in order to develop 915 women for the sector. And my proposal to USAID was, let me look at that entire ecosystem. I want to be able to, number one, develop female truck drivers and bus drivers and couriers. But I also want to develop female leaders. So I want to focus on middle management to upper management and give them the opportunity to have a diploma, have the skills, but really develop the vocabulary that's necessary to participate and succeed, and the confidence to be heard in a boardroom. So I also wanted that those women in leadership decisions would be able to have influence, to be able to take in my female truck drivers, understanding the challenges that women face. We then went to the next level to say, right, we recognize that there aren't enough female entrepreneurs in the sector. And I'm going to give you the stats in a second. So let us also develop female entrepreneurs. In that way, we close the whole loop. So we've got women business owners making decisions to empower more women, and women leaders in positions of power to be able to make the decisions to bring in female truck drivers, bus drivers, and couriers. That project, as I said, landed us $2 million US. We are 18 months into the project, and as of last week, USAID confirmed that they will be funding an additional $1 million to give us another 2 years of this project. So this project went from 3 years to 5 years. I couldn't be more excited. We've now extended our project to cater for another 250 female truck and bus drivers. Oh, thanks, guys. I really appreciate the little hearts and claps. but also we're developing 100 motorbike drivers. So looking at the project is to say, right, we know that truck drivers can participate from the age of 23 years onwards, but what do we do with the youth? How do we get women in from 18 to 23? And for me, that was the motorbike environment. If I can develop their observation and driving skills between age 18 and 23, I can set them up to be incredible truck drivers, because so many of the women that we are employing don't have the observation skills. They don't have the spatial skills because they've never driven. So I just want to take you through those statistics. Currently, female truck drivers, unconfirmed data because there hasn't been a national study other than my master's. And my master's was titled on the underrepresentation of women in the transport sector. There was also a study by Northwest University done about 2 years before mine. So mine was done in 2019. We came up with data that suggested about 1.1% female representation. So that's employed female truck and bus drivers. The courier industry still remains a bit of a challenge for me to get data. But I do believe we might be heading closer to the 2%. And I have actually, part of my funding is to look at data research. But we will be addressing corporates on this because I think it's really important we understand the baseline of where women are. In terms of female leadership, managerial sort of upper management leadership, Stats SA has produced data of around 17% of women employed in the sector. We do not know what the leadership statistics are. So again, this is really a challenge but we know they're not higher than 17%. But I think the toughest one for me was female entrepreneurs. MasterCard in 2019 released data that women only make up around 8% of the business owners that have business services and products into supply chain. I had a meeting with one of our biggest bankers recently, and they were looking at a platform that they hold, which has transporters, so all men and women. And when they looked at the data, that about 3.8% of their listed transporters were women-owned companies. So I think that gives you the baseline as to why we did what we did, why it was so important that we take the time, get the funding, and really develop initiatives that could focus on women in all areas, but not at the isolation of men, not at the expense of men. The only way women are going to succeed in the sector is when men champion their success, when men are comfortable to embrace that women deserve a seat at the table. Now that brings me to the title of my program, which is, invitations are scarce. When I started entering the market in 2020 to say, right, I'm developing female truck drivers. What do you as an organization need so that you can bring them in? I encountered more challenges and more obstacles than opportunities. The safety issue dominated. Women are not safe as truck drivers on the South African roads. Look what's happening to the men. Look what's happening to certain bus companies in the Western Cape, where the drivers have been shot or drivers have been injured. And I think what I'm going to say now might sound a bit harsh, but the truth is that no longer is truck or bus driving a physical taxing job like it was in the past of old technology where you didn't have automated or supported loading equipment. So pallet jacks and things were very manual. You had to be incredibly strong to use them. We now have loading and offloading equipment where the driver does not have to physically do that job. But even when they do, it is supported. We know that the trucks of today, they are moving computers. The equipment, most of them are automatic. They speak to the drivers. To me, it's just so inspiring and incredibly motivating how technology has changed. So we're now looking at a driver that needs to have more savvy, needs to be able to communicate technically with their vehicles. And obviously the ABCs of driving, of defensive driving, still apply, but we realized that if we were going to take women into the sector, it wasn't going to be on skill alone. So although she had to be an incredible truck driver or a bus driver, she needed a lot more to actually cope in the industry. And that's when we started to see that we had to bring into our program at least 14 to 15 soft skills. These soft skills were everything around personal development, career development, managing personal finances, sexual harassment in the workplace, working in teams. Working in teams is such a key one, because helping these ladies understand what they would need to work in a male-dominated team. You know, what challenge were they going to encounter in the workplace, first of all? And then how were they to overcome them? What were the tools that they needed to overcome maybe being marginalized, maybe being excluded, maybe having a team leader or a fleet controller that hadn't been sensitized to dealing with women. And by this, I mean that women are no different to men in many areas of the workplace. But when it comes to a man saying, I don't want to put a woman on this specific route because I think the route's unsafe, he imposes his own fears of how to protect a woman, because he feels that's still what his job is, or his role, a masculine role is, and they limit the opportunity for women to grow. They limit the opportunity for us in industry to be able to see where do the challenges lie, what are the routes that we need to be able to invest in, and put extra time and effort. So people say, like, you know, the N3 is a no-no for women because of the violence and the challenges. We know of a lot of women that are running those routes already, and very safely. There's an amazing truck stop at Harrismith. There's another one in Villiers that cater for women. So there are in some routes, in fact, that's the main route that does have infrastructure for women. So the safety issue, and I can't go through all of it now, but the safety issue is a major concern. And for that, we then realized that the only way we were going to change the mindset of business owners and fleet controllers to get around this was to come up with another add-on, which is an association that we're busy setting up called Safe Stops. And Safe Stops is the whole of industry working together to identify routes, to identify truck stops, to identify supports in case of breakdowns, to look at like things like truck stop fuel stations, for instance. Generally only have men working at night. So if this is a female coming in 7, 8 o'clock at night, finishing her route, she's only going to encounter men at the truck stop. So could we start to look at having more women on those shifts? And why aren't women on those shifts? So really trying to level the playing field and to start to ask the questions as to why these decisions have been made in the past that have purposely no, let me rephrase it. Not have purposely isolated women, but have in many ways isolated women from the industry of truck driving. When my ladies get their truck driver's license, it is, I can't even begin to explain how proud I feel, but the emotion on the day. You know, for many women, this is the first time in their adult life that they've achieved something that they is for themselves, that is that goes beyond what they ever thought. So when they come into the program, our truck driving program, so our program is called Women Inspiring Women to Lead in Transport. And under that program, as I said, is truck drivers, entrepreneurs, and leaders. But I work leaders. I work very closely with the truck driver program and, of course, entrepreneurs. But I feel like a mother of hundreds of children when I see these ladies start to SMS to say, I've just passed, I've got my license, I've got my code 14, I've got my code 10. The one lady broke down crying the one day saying this is the first time her mom has expressed to her since she left school in grade 11 pregnant, that her mom has said to her, I'm proud of you. I can't even find the words to tell you what this actually means to women, unemployed women with a matric who have not been able to access industry, but can now, with a new skill, can now come into the industry and find a job. because that's what the industry is looking for. So, sorry, I'm way off track here. So besides helping our women, and all fully funded, helping our ladies get a commercial driver's license, they go through 15 soft skills to really help them to be resilient, to enter the industry, to be retained in the industry. I don't want women just wanting access. I want them to be there years to come and to go from truck drivers into office administration positions and eventually into leadership positions. And I want many of our female truck drivers to be able to enter the market to become business owners, but with a license and understanding the industry. Guys, I think, the industry itself, and I've lost track, I do apologize. Since my treatment, I find it very hard to focus and to stay on track, and my memory is like absolutely shocking. So I do apologize, I've gone off track a little bit there, but I think that, besides there we go, the soft skills. So it's the technical skills. We actually add on 3 technical skills, which are 3 key unit standards from the professional truck driver program, which is operator vehicle combination, operator rigid. We also add on health and safety in the workplace and low general freight. Then on top of that, we look at physical health, mental health, and emotional health in the workplace. We know that one of the major challenges that truck drivers deal with is depression. This is a global phenomenon. We know that it's got to do with the fact that they spend a lot of time alone. They spend a lot of time in their heads, so they know they have challenges at home. They're dealing with all the same challenges that every citizen deals with globally. But in their case, they're on their own. They're not with their family. So at night when they connect with their wives, they hear the problems that their wives are dealing with, but they struggle to participate in those family issues. And that leaves them just trying to cope with being, again, I suppose, somewhat being an outsider to their family. It is incredibly challenging for them. So coping with the depression, coping with weight control. So how do you eat on our national roads, get the most nutrition per rand, with the least amount of risk of weight gain and becoming sick from lifestyle diseases like hypertension, diabetes. So we do a lot of work around that, so really looking at nutrition. Then we look at stuff like, in terms of the emotional stuff, I do a lot of work around meditation. So using meditation for breathing, that starts really early in our program. If I can help my driver control their breathing, I can help them when they climb into their truck to do their driver's license, or they sit in the chair to do their learner's license, to compose themselves so that they can breathe through that and control their nervous energy. And the same thing is when they're in a truck and they encounter a stressful situation, or they're in traffic that is really challenging them, to calm themselves down, to be able to cope through that environment. So this is just part of the things that we actually have brought into our truck driving and bus driving program. And I'm really hoping that as time goes on, we will evolve this. When I sit with industry now and I say, all right, I have covered technical, I've covered emotional, I've covered mental, I've covered social. What else do you need from a truck driver or a bus driver? And they look at me and they say, well, sure, the security on the routes is still bad. And then my response is, I'm not looking for long haul. I'm asking industry, bring women into short haul, 200-300 kilometers at most, from the DC to the back end of the Woolworths, the Pick and Pay, the forecourts, the fuel stations, the KFC, the McDonald's. There must be, the industry is so wide, there must be hundreds of companies in South Africa at the moment that are playing in that area that have the opportunity to say, bring us 5 women. The other challenge I encountered was, Nikki, your ladies have just been licensed. So we said, okay, that yes, they've just got their driver's license, but part of that program also builds on an advanced driving program. So by means of our incredible partners, we've been able to, and I see I'm almost at the end of this, by means of our incredible partners, we've been able to add a technical environment into the program where our ladies are exposed to all the different trailers, van bodies, all the applications, and they do an advanced driver program as well. So I say to you as I finish off now, there cannot be any other excuses that I can think of that should hold women back. And if each of you on this call today could just take in 2 or 3 ladies into your environment, you would have employed all of the women that we have already developed in the first 18 months. And every 4 months, another 40 women into the industry looking for employment and looking for an opportunity to change their lives. Please support us. Claire, I think that's my time. You gave me until 10:02. I could have the whole morning if you let it be.
Thank you, Nikki. You can have a couple more minutes if you want to add some more things before we hit the questions or discussion. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
So let me just say that we have a branch in Johannesburg and a branch in Cape Town. We have employed women on the program from the Atlantis area. So we are looking for industries pretty much between Cape Town on the 7 all the way up to Atlantis, and there's a huge industrial hub there. We've also taken women from Dunoon, from Ianga, and these are all vulnerable communities, Philippi as well. So really, airport industrial industries around that area, please, companies, step forward, give us an opportunity to showcase these incredibly skilled women. And in Johannesburg, the ladies literally come from areas of Lenasia up to Pretoria, Soshanguve, all the way down to Soweto. So we cover an incredibly broad range of geographical areas. A lot of our ladies come from the Eastern Cape and Northern Cape, so they would happily return back to their cities. The last thing I want to mention is this program would not be possible without the corporate sponsors that back us, as well as USA. So I thank all of you for the incredible opportunities we've had to be able to bring this program to South Africa. That's it, Claire.
Thank you, Nikki. Firstly, just thank you for being brave to share your story from the beginning and in its current form. I think it's so refreshing to hear somebody talking about their lives and their challenges and what you learned to be able to not only empower yourself but others. It's just amazing. One of my questions I had was to ask you how organizations can contact you and get involved, but you did kind of answer that, and I think that everybody needs to hear Nikki's call. 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 women drivers, couriers, bikes, trucks. If you've got capacity in your organizations to assist, please reach out to Nikki. You can contact her via LinkedIn, or you can contact the SAPEX office and we'll connect you. I like the idea of your the Safe Stocks project. I feel that I was going to ask you about support that you're receiving from other associations, government bodies, security organizations. Is that something that you struggle with, or are you finding that it's easy to get that support and have those discussions to make everybody safe?
I think from the struggle I have is time and resources. If I had somebody that could help me with this, I would have absolutely no challenge in bringing safe stops to the forefront. You're going to see a lot of it now on social media, but I think we could do with the support of all organizations. Right now, there are about 5 major companies: Imperial, Unitrans, Barloworld, OneLogics, in terms of the listed companies, DSV, that we know are employing women. So understanding the challenges they've overcome. I do work with some of those companies already, but the fuel station, Total, we would love to have all the oil companies on. All I'm asking industry is, let's collaborate to find solutions, not just for women. I failed to mention that all of our programs has a male element. So 10 to 20% of each of those programs has men in them as well, because we want that sort of conversation to start happening and for men and women to share this space where they can communicate. But we really want industry to collaborate here to find solutions, because I believe that the moment we uplift the environment for women, it's going to happen for men as well. So all those truck stops that need to be improved, the en route safe stops when it is a breakdown, that there is a quick turnaround time. It's going to make a huge difference. So working with the telematics companies to the oil companies to corporate is key.
Brilliant. Tanya has a question. Jenny's very kindly put your your website address in the chat. Thanks, Jenny. Tanya said, what is the percentage of women that has been absorbed into industry that you know of at this stage?
So from my program, we've got 65% of our ladies have been absorbed into industry, but only about 25% of those have permanent contracts. The others are all sitting at workplace hosts or on temp contracts, building their experience, building their industry knowledge. So one of our, honestly, lifesavers is the One Logics Group. They're the company that bought me out, and they take in all of our ladies, and these women from our program get exposed to up to 11 different OE products. So they drive all the new vehicles, and they drive them nationally. So when they go for a job interview, they can literally climb into a Mercedes-Benz Actros 3 or a Tata 407. They've driven them all. And we want to be able to take those women from that environment, now that they've got up to 6, 8, even 12 months driving experience, and put them into permanent employment. I will feel that I've been successful when these ladies are permanently employed.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal. But you're doing such extraordinary work, and thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone else? I think very inspiring, and hopefully you will receive some reach out from our audience or people who know people. And thank you, Nikki, very much. Good luck with your work. Good luck for the next chapter. Well done on your USAID further funding. It can only help the transport industry for both men and women. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Before I go, carry on.
No, I just want to say thank you to industry and to SAPEX for making today possible, to give us another chance to tell people what we're up to.
Thank you. We're very happy to spread stories like this and connect people. That's what we do.